Welcome back to the Banner Tree podcast. And Ryan, we're sitting here July 3rd, just a day before Independence Day here in the good old US of A. And we're going to celebrate, 4th of July and our freedoms and, the day that we separated from Great Britain. And, it's just the freedoms that we're afforded here in America. And as Americans, we're proud of our freedoms. We talked about it a little bit before we went red here today. Just the freedom to get here and talk on a podcast and freedom to talk about anything we want to,
Absolutely.
just our religion, our guns, and what we do and what our hobbies are. We're afforded that opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got the freedom of speech. We got the right to bear arms.
Yeah.
We have all that. I mean, and even, I've preached different sermons with funny examples, how come the number 2 pencil is the number 1 pencil in the world? Because it can be. Why do we, drive on parkways and park in driveways? Because it's America, baby, and we do whatever we want, way we want, because it's about freedom.
That's right.
But, we're proud of our freedom. I'm thankful for our freedom, to be able to talk about whatever we want at any opportunity and not worry about somebody coming in and stopping us from proclaiming whatever we want to talk about the time we want to talk about it, with no really repercussions for it, because of freedom, because men and women, they gave their lives for us to have this exact freedom. So I can preach the gospel on a Sunday morning so that we can sit in here, so that we can be small business owners.
That's right. Yeah. And, I think about it every 4th of July. It just rolls around. And, not just the freedom that we're afforded in our country, because I know we have listeners and viewers from all around the world. But, just as listeners, the way we connect here is, we have freedom through Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
And, I just wanted to kind of open this up with 2 Corinthians 3:17 says, "The Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom."
Absolutely.
And, it just brings it all back into one circle here. And, we have freedoms in this country, and I believe, and some may not believe it, but I believe that the Lord has his hand on our land, and, where he's here. He's here, and he's afforded us freedom through Christ, his son, and he freely gave his life for our sin, and he bare all of our shame and all of our guilt and all those things that even viewers, might be going through right now. Just know there's freedom through Jesus Christ. And, here at the Banded Retrieve, we have faith is our first staple and our first pillar in our values, and family and in our legacy, and a lot of people say faith, family, and freedom.
Yeah.
But faith is a big thing here at TBR.
Absolutely. We believe in the freedom that Jesus gave. In John it says, "So if the Son sets you free, you're free indeed." And really, to be in a free country and be able to live out and do the things that we want to do, to be able to hunt those wonderful 60 days of duck season wherever they might be, it is incredible to receive freedom in our spirit from Christ, and it only comes from a relationship with him. You can search all you want through all the kinds of things, and people do it all the time, through whatever vice it might be. Maybe it is some addiction, maybe it's just trying to drown all your anxiety and fear in hunting, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But the reality is the only thing that can really give you true freedom is a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I'm thankful for that as we celebrate, the 4th of July, hopefully with some hot dogs, hamburgers, and some friends over, maybe a little cornhole.
That's right.
Or something like that. Maybe even a little dog train and throwing a bumper to pastor. Whatever it might be, pool party. We're going to be reminded that Jesus truly set us free. And I'm thankful for that. And for the listeners, I think we try to mention it often, but sometimes we get bogged down in hunting and stories, and we like it. But the reality is faith is number one in our company and in ourselves and in our families.
That's right. And so, tomorrow and 4th of July, just, take a minute to just remember the lives who gave us those freedoms, and the ultimate life that gave us our freedom is Jesus Christ. And so we just wanted to mention that a little bit before we get rolling here. But, we're coming off of a couple of months of some pretty killer fishing that we've done. And, we showed our viewers some of that. We went to Nashville, Tennessee, and we went big rockfish fishing with Kevin Davis, and you put that picture up there on
Oh
Facebook, and
man.
people were all over the place on that.
Oh
I'm guessing
yeah,
the weight.
yeah. I love that. I mean, I said it numerous times to people. I said it was a great fish, but it was a better photographer, and I held it pretty good. And you snapped that photo, and
Well, it ain't our first rodeo.
yeah, that's right, that's right. But it was an incredible fish. It was personal record for me. A
Yeah.
30-pound striper. They were breaking that morning, and me and you, we were behind the game. We were 3 miles down the river. We got the phone call, hey, they're breaking. Make it down there. We hoofed it on your jet boat all the way down there. We made it, and literally, as I threw that Magnum redfin, I threw it, and you said even like before it touched
Yeah.
the water, that thing hit
Fish
it.
got it before it ever hit the water.
Yeah, I mean it was just best cast of my life in the right spot, I guess. So-
Well, what's funny, we raced down there, and there was probably 6 boats down there already.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, when these fish are breaking, and for the viewers and the listeners, when these fish break, they come up on top of the water, and they push that bait up on top of the water. And so when they do that those bait try to escape, they're dead. And
Yeah.
so they're jumping out of the water, and so are those big fish, and they'll jump up out of the water and just grab those fish whole
Oh, yeah.
as they eat them. And you see it sometimes maybe on TV and stuff, but when you see it in real life, man, it's crazy. And so we got down there, and what's funny was I was getting my stuff ready. You throw that, and like I said, I looked out at the corner of my eye, and I seen it, and that fish was just whoom,
Yeah,
just
it
right
sucked
all
it.
over
I mean, it was on.
and it was it.
Yeah.
That was it. That was
Yeah.
it. So those guys, those other 6 boats, which we knew all those guys. Some of them are locals, some of them from all over the country.
Absolutely.
And we got to meet some pretty cool guys down there. But they're down there. They enjoyed 2 or 3 fish apiece, and me and you, we get down there. We get the end of it, which was awesome to see you pull it in on a redfin. And we talked about it several times through the week. There's not many places you can go and catch that big of a fish on top water bait.
Absolutely, and what was incredible is, unfortunately for B in that moment, is that we had we had 4 other guys with us basically, and I think one boat caught 2 apiece. And then the other boat, a guy caught a 48-pounder, Kevin, who was on the last podcast, caught a 48-pounder on top water, which is unheard of. And then Fish, our producer of the podcast, he caught a 38-pounder.
Yeah.
His story was crazy because he backspun it and was basically, it was an incredible story.
We got 2 months. We got 2 months of fishing with fish.
Oh, yeah.
So if you don't know Fish by now, you should know him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's not called Fish because he fishes.
No, absolutely not. So it was incredible. We had a great time. So we had caught all those fish. We had it, and so the only person left to catch to really pull in one that day was you. And And so we went back up, and we started doing. We were dropping bait, and and ends up it was probably 11:30. And you connected with one, and I was celebrating. It was awesome. We got the whole thing on film.
It's tough, man, and I'm speaking to all those people out there, all those guys that, whether you're hunting or you're fishing or you're doing any of these things outdoors, you get out there and you go and you put in the time. You've paid way more money than what you want to tell your wife.
Freedom, baby, freedom. How much did that cost?
Come on.
Yeah.
Well, you've put all the time and all the resources into this thing, and then everybody's connecting but you. And trust me, I'm there more times than not. But luckily the story wasn't over for me. And the funny thing about all that story is our viewers and our listeners, they hadn't heard that.
Oh yeah.
What they heard on the last one, which was the June episode, if you go back and listen to it, we're sitting there talking to Kevin, and we're 4 or 5 days into this trip, and we hadn't hooked up. We hadn't hooked up, so the story wasn't over.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you and Fish had to leave and come back home to Princeton, and so that was our second to last day.
Yep.
And so we didn't really have any time in between to do anything else as far as recording goes.
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do in those moments.
Absolutely.
But you hear a whole different tone from the June to July voice.
Oh
here.
yeah, absolutely.
But like you said, we were fishing down that cliff wall and dropping. What we do is we drop live bait down with 3 ounce to 3 or 5 ounce sinkers, and you drop them all the way to the bottom, and those big fish, they'll lay down there in the bottom of the river,
Yep.
and you drop that bait down to them, and then we were just floating through. And I still believe, man, it's by the grace of God that
Yeah,
I caught that
absolutely.
fish, because they were turned off. I think that I just hit it upside down in the head or something, and it just hit it.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite way to do it. I know, we talked to Kevin a lot, and his favorite, he really likes to catch them on top water. And I know a lot of people
Yeah.
get a lot of joy and a lot of, fun that way. But it's to me, I like pulling those big suckers up off the bottom of the river.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so it's a nice fight, and that one ended up being like 30, 32 or 33 or something. And I've caught bigger, but man, it was a good fight, and it was the first big fish I've caught on my boat.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And what's incredible about as I was thinking about it, we pulled in 2 big fish on your boat, and both
Yeah.
of them were citations, Tennessee
That's right.
citations. So I mean, I don't know what you're gonna call that boat, but it's definitely the citation striper.
Tennessee citation.
But it was a great experience. We had a blast. Me and Fish could only be down there for a couple days just based on my schedule, and but we hightailed it down there, and
Yeah.
fought some adversity, but man, hooking up on a great fish, and a great picture of it, and a great story. And
I mean, fellowship was just amazing
Absolutely.
that week, and we got a little bit of time here. We can talk a little bit about the pain of the week too. I mean, I had some issues, and I know we talked about it in June. We had a couple issues the first couple days of trying my boat out, and I
Yeah.
appreciate you, man, just sticking in there with me and helping me through all that, because in the moment even the fixes that we had, even though we had to get the right pieces in the moment, it just seems like such a bigger issue.
oh yeah,
And so, you kind of have to have that person that brings you back down to ground level and's like, listen, man, it's just a fuse.
yeah, yeah,
It's just a fuse.
yeah. I mean,
And if we can get the impeller, we got it.
Yeah.
It's a nut and a bolt, baby. We got this.
well, I think I mean, it was a new boat and new experience for you, and for me also, even as a first mate, and so I wasn't going to leave you in those moments. So the other guys were out fishing, and we had and whether you know it or not, but on a Yamaha 90, which is a 65 jet. I mean, there's a huge fuse panel up top, and
Yeah.
it'll kill everything.
yeah.
I mean,
it'll make you think you're shot. I mean,
yeah, and so we experienced that, and then your boat it likes a full tank of gas. It
Yeah.
doesn't like a quarter or even a third, and so we experienced that. It seems like it was sucking dry, and so
Yeah.
we have to keep it topped off, and those are just things that we had to learn. But it's a great boat. Push down. I think we were going with a full bait tank.
I mean,
me
there
and
at the
you.
end, me, you, Fish. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a big boy. If he was here right now, he'd tell you he's a big boy too.
Yeah.
Big old guys, me, you, and Fish, and we had all of our gear, and then we had a bait tank that had 20, 30 gallons of water in it,
Absolutely.
and we still went 28 mile an hour.
Oh yeah, I mean we were hightailing it down there. It's not going to be any issue for duck season to get
Yeah.
us anywhere we want to go. But it's just things that you learn and you experience. It was a great trip, great opportunity to get on the water, and it's always good to catch a big rockfish.
Oh, yeah.
I mean it's definitely. People talk about those stories for a lifetime. It's a story I'll have and a picture I have. I shared it with my boys. They were pumped, and it was just a great trip all around.
Yeah. Well, and just taking it back to to the A trip
Yeah.
with Troy Stifler and
Oh yeah.
New River Trophy Outfitters, man. I mean, that was an awesome trip.
Oh, absolutely.
I can speak here that I didn't really know Troy until I got there. I ran into him, didn't know who he was then.
Yeah.
But once I got in there and we got there that morning, we had a blast and we had fun. And meeting Jeremiah, he's great, and he captained the other boat, and
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun with those guys too. I mean, it's been a great couple months of fishing.
Absolutely, and I get to or got to go down the river with Troy again, and in June, and so it's incredible. And it came after the river was blown out. I mean, our river got blown out. I don't know about the listeners, but I mean, our lake went from 1410
Mm-hmm.
to 1434. I mean, so that's
Yeah, it
24
was.
feet
Yeah, I thought I
high.
was going to say
Yeah.
24, 27, something.
Yeah, I mean it's so I mean and that all fed into the New River. And what's so crazy, if you go back to the Choice podcast or if you get on YouTube, you can actually see part of the breakdown of that river or those rivers
Yeah.
converging. But the Greenbrier River is literally too shallow to float right now. I mean, it was in that time, it's too shallow to float, but the new river is like 6 feet above normal. So, I mean, you got the tail of two rivers there. One's doesn't have enough water, and the other one has all that water that came from North Carolina from that push of that tropical storm. So, I mean, it's just crazy to experience that and see that. We had a lot of flooding in our area, and it's crazy. I mean, like 100-year floods.
Yeah, and shout out to West Virginia Tourism. If you don't follow those guys on Facebook, I encourage you to do so. They've put out some really cool videos here lately with some drones and going up and down the rivers and hitting some of the highlight spots in the state of West Virginia. It's an awesome page, but they put on there, and you and I haven't even talked about this
No,
yet.
yeah.
I've been meaning to, but where that lake was up so high. I mean, did you see? I don't know if you got to see the picture of the boats in that dock over there.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about that before, and it's just down below the Hinton Bridge that goes across there, and there's a campground over there on your left if you're coming from Pipestem, Princeton area. And there's this dock down there on the bottom, and it's a dock house. There's a dock house with
Yeah.
it, and there's boats there. And the crazy thing, that lake rises up and down, and those docks in that dock house rises with it.
It does.
So that water was actually up over top of the road that comes into that dock or that boat landing or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And all that raises up and down, and it's amazing. I mean, I know that it took some thought in that, but when you see it when it's at normal pool and then you see it at 24, 27 feet up,
Oh yeah.
and it's like that house floats with that thing, and it
Oh,
stays
yeah.
all right there. It's awesome engineering.
Yeah, I mean, it is crazy because I mean, all the boat launches shut down on Memorial Day weekend. I mean, that's when this really pushed through, and I mean, it was a rough time for the river here, and to see that lake just at that height. Sometimes we talk about that. We'll see that coming in duck season. You just never know, or early goose season. If you get the wrong rain, they're working on that dam. It usually can have 14 gates where it dispels the water. Now it's only got 7. It's only going to have 7, I think, for the next 3 years. So they cannot dump that water quick enough to get it. So it will ruin hunting, ruin camping. I mean,
Yeah.
the campground shut down, all those things. And so, it's 4 seasons country. It's West Virginia, and you just never know. June can bring a lot of rain, and it seems like May and June has done that.
Yeah, and it's dangerous. I mean,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you don't know what you're doing, you're going out there. Don't come to West Virginia and not know what you're doing. people,
Absolutely.
okay?
Yeah.
Like really, it is a very dangerous thing. We've talked about that several times, but
Yeah.
I mean, even that picture that I was looking at, that shot down on the right side, like from Hinton to Pipestem, that shot down to the right side, that whole island covered.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in the trees above that island covered.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll pull up some video here where we were hunting on that island and show you. And that water's at least 20 feet above where we're hunting.
Which
on
is
that.
so amazing. I mean, it is really the engineering of that dam really to hold back all that and so that Charleston doesn't flood and all those things. I mean, it's all calculated, and it's a beautiful part of the country, and we deal with that river and that lake a lot just because it's in our backyard. But man, it can definitely kill. I think Troy, I saw a post from him. I think he couldn't fish for 5 days, and now
Yeah.
he's going to Meadow Creek. But that's also the awesome thing. We talked about that. There's 3 rivers that converge there, and then he's got Meadow Creek. He's got a lot of options. So
Yeah.
if you haven't been smallmouth smallie fishing, man, New River Trophy Outfitters with Troy. I mean, he treated us right. He was on the podcast.
Man, he's such a great guy.
And we
I mean,
had a
just
great
such
time.
a great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and he going back to that, where they couldn't fish there, but like 2 or 3 days before that, in a row, he was catching 60 fish.
Oh yeah.
I mean, per boat.
Yeah, and
was 60 fish.
And I think he had 5 or 6 boats out. I mean, it was well over 300 fish. I know that he was talking about catching, and he's got 10 boats. I mean,
Yeah.
and if all 10 boats were out, I guarantee he's probably catching 60 on each of
Yeah.
those too. I mean, it would, but when it's right in West Virginia, it's right too. So
Yeah.
I mean, well, when it's wrong, it's wrong.
That's
So,
right.
Famine or feast sometimes.
Well, and just one more thing on Troy there. If you get on YouTube and go to Academy Sports Outdoors,
Yeah.
and there is a special with Troy, New River Trophy Outfitters, and Marty Smith is
Yeah.
on Troy's boat, and he walks him. And if you don't know who Marty Smith is, he's actually a local guy here from New River Valley and Narrows.
Yeah.
And I just picked up his book. I'm going to read it, Never Settle. And he goes on the float that we did with Troy, and they talk a lot about it. And Troy's a wealth of knowledge, and you'll hear a lot of that
Absolutely.
on that video. And I'll link it below in the description for everybody that's watching on YouTube now. So
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's I watched that video also, and Troy takes him on a great trek, just like we went on, and they caught some fish, and it shows the beauty of West Virginia and what you can really get into if you come this way.
Yeah. Well, just kind of wrap up where we're going here. I did want to mention, because we haven't talked about it a lot. We've talked about it some, but we do have a YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
And we are trying to get that started up a little bit more. So if you're listening on the Podcaster or Spotify, or any of those podcast platforms, do us a favor and jump on over to YouTube and just give us a subscribe, and you kind of get to see what we look like and what we
Absolutely.
what we look like versus what our voice sounds like.
Absolutely.
As we do this. And I show a couple of extra clips too of like us fishing on this one, and so you get to see a little bit more of what we do, get to know us a little bit better.
Absolutely. Yeah, our YouTube channel is great, and we need subscribers. It always helps. So if you hit that subscribe button, that would help us a lot. And also, we're on Instagram heavy. We have a great presence on Instagram. We have a growing presence on Facebook. We're continually growing on it. Now we've started the YouTube channel, and then we started the Twitter.
Yeah.
And we got TikTok. I mean,
We got it all.
We do.
We do it
I
all.
mean, we're trying to just to reach as many people as we can, because ultimately, I think it comes back to the very beginning of
Yeah.
what you said. Is like me and you have other jobs. I'm a pastor. You're an engineer. We do things separate from this. But our number one thing is we love Jesus. We love
right.
sharing the gospel, and we love doing it any avenue. And God's blessed us with this incredible company, with an incredible logo, with a passion that started with you and your dog, and now as a friendship that's been well over 20 years that has now came to fruition in this. And it is just incredible what God has done and through all that. But it is an avenue for us to share the gospel with people so that they can really experience the true freedom. So as you're setting off fireworks, don't blow off your arm.
Yeah, be safe.
Be safe out there. But have friends and family, and don't forget about God. He's definitely with you, and he's just a prayer away. So if you need to talk to him, just open up your mouth, talk to him, and true freedom comes from him.